Hi everyone, in this lesson we are going to be having a look at how to play The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. Now this song was written by Paul Simon in about 1963-64 and it appeared on their debut album Wednesday Morning 3 AM. Now the song the first verse begins with a fingerpicked pattern. Now when Paul Simon did this he would often use a thumb pick. Certainly when I've seen him doing it live in the early days he would use a thumb pick and his first and second fingers. You can do it with just a plectrum, and that's probably how I will do it through most of this video because I suspect that's how most people want to be playing it. The second verse through to the end then is strummed. Again, you can do this with your fingers if you want, but I'm going to be using a plectrum throughout. And then finally there's a bit of finger picking at the end. So what we'll do is we will go in for a close-up. We'll have a look first of all at the chords we're going to need for the song, and then we'll have a look at how to play it. Okay, and the chords are an A minor chord, so we've got open A string, second fret on the D string, second fret on the G string, first fret on the B string and the open top E string. We then have a variation of that, which is the Asus2 chord. For that, all we need to do is take the first finger off to open up the B string, again play from the A string. We then have a G chord. So this is third fret of the low E string, second fret of the A string, open D, G and B strings, and then finally third fret on the top E. We then have a C chord. So for this it's third fret on the A string, second fret on the D string, open G string, first fret of the B string and open top E. We also have an F chord. And for this song, you really ought to do the full bar chord version if you can. You could get away with doing one of the simpler versions of F, but for the full bar chord version, then it's barring across the first fret with your first finger. You then have the third fret of the A string, third fret of the D string, second fret of the G string. Play all 6 strings. Okay, and also briefly, at one point there is an F major 7th chord. You'll only need 3 of the strings for this. You need the third fret on the third fret of the D string, second fret of the G string and first fret of the B string, and just play those 3 strings. Okay, that only comes in once during the verses. Okay, so the opening of the song then is this rhythm. Okay, so for that what we're doing, we're actually playing the Asus2 chord there, although I only really need my finger on the G string at the second fret. And what we do there is we play the G string, top E, the B, and then the top E again. That's the pattern, and then that repeats. So doing that pattern twice gives you 1 bar. So we open up then with 2 bars of that pattern. We're then going to go to a G chord, and all we really need for this is the third fret of the low E string. And we're going to use a very similar pattern. This time we play the low E string, the open B, the open G, then back to the B. And again, that repeats, so 2 of those makes 1 bar. Okay, and we play that for 2 bars. We now go to the A minor chord and we're going to do this. Okay, so the second pattern is slightly different to the first one. To start off with, we have the open A string, then the open E string, the G string, then the B string, and then this time rather than going back to the A string, we're going to play the D string. And then everything is the same after that, the E string, the G string, and then the B string. So that gives you 1 bar of that. We're now going to play another half bar of that A minor using the first pattern starting on the A string. So A, E, G, B. We're then going to go to a C chord for half a bar. So Exactly the same pattern here, the A string, E string, G string, then the B string. Okay, so that bar will be okay, we then go to the F chord. We're going to play the low E string, the high E string, the G, then the B, just for half a bar. We then move to the C and do exactly the same as before, A, E, G, B. We're now going to move our third finger up onto the third fret of the low E string as an alternate bass note. So now we play the low E string, the top E string, the G, and the B. We now return to the C chord with our third finger on the A string and do the pattern exactly as you'd expect it now. A, E, B, G, and B. Okay, I'll just go from the F chord then, so this will be 2 bars that we're doing. Okay, so we're now halfway through the first verse, so what I'll do is I'll go back to the beginning now and just play through this half. Okay, then we now go to an F chord again. We play that for half a bar using this same pattern. E, E, G, B. Then back into our C. So A, E, G, B. We're then going to move the third finger up onto the low E string again at the third fret. And do E, E, G, B. Okay, so that is 1.5 bars there. What we've actually got there is 1 bar of 4/4 followed by a bar of 2/4. So the bar of 4/4 is the F and the first part of the C. Then we have half a bar of C, a bar of 2/4. Now go back to an F chord. We're going to play this as you'd expect now for 2 whole bars. Okay, we then go to a C. We start off as you would expect, and then there's a slight variation. So it goes like this. Okay, so we have the A, top E, G, B, back to the A, top E. We're then going to go on the third fret of the D string, and then the second fret of the D. So that gives you... Okay, we then have this. So what we're doing is we're moving from a C chord to an A minor chord. We start off by playing the third fret of the A string, top string, then the G string. We're then going to play the second fret of the A, then the open A, moving on to our A minor chord. Then play the open top string again. Then the second fret now of the G string, and then the second fret of the A string again. We then have half a bar of C as you'd expect it, and then half bar of, well, it's actually a full bar. It's half a bar because we're on the last half of 1 bar, and then we do another bar of 2/4 on this this G. So it's the same pattern but twice. Okay, and then we go back to our Asus2 and we do exactly the same as our opening bar. We then hold down an A minor chord and we're just going to strum. Okay, so I'll give you the second half of the first verse now. Okay, I'd just like to point out as well that you may have noticed that sometimes when I was doing changes, for example, between the C chord and the F chord, where the last note played in each bar before the change was a note that is held down by a finger. Sometimes what I'd do is I'd actually open that note up, so open the string, in order to give me a bit more time to change chords. So I'll give you an example of that. If we change from a C to an F chord, instead of trying to hold that B note down, I'd sometimes open it up to give me time to move my hand onto the next chord. Again there. So that can just make life a little bit easier when changing between those two chords so that you don't get that B string sounding dead. Okay, we'll move on now to the second verse. So we come in with a G chord, and there's a strumming pattern that's used through most of the song, which is this. It's 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. Now I'm doing those all as downstrokes. That is particularly handy if you're using a thumb pick because it's very difficult to do upstrokes with a thumb pick. Listening to the record, I think he's doing downstrokes. They sound like downstrokes throughout the whole thing. So that's what I shall do. So yeah, the timing once again then was 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. Okay, so you're going to open up this verse then with 2 bars of the G. Now there's a variation that you can add to this. If you listen carefully to the original, there's an overdubbed guitar part, which is this, that's played over the top of the chord being strummed. When Paul Simon does this live, sometimes he'll do that same little run, but instead of doing it on this octave, he'll drop it down an octave. So he'll give you this. So for that, what we need to do is we strum the first G and the second, then we're going to open up the A string. We then play the second fret of the A, and then we do the second fret again, then the third fret of the A, and then from the open D to give you this. And notice that I am catching other strings to give it the sound of a strum rather than just the sound of the individual notes. You can then carry on with the rest of the strumming pattern. Okay, after that then we go down to an A minor chord, and we're going to use exactly the same pattern. We're going to play this for 1.5 bars. So 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and. And again, there's a variation we can add here. On the ands, what he's doing is he's opening up all of the strings. So you'll have 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and. Okay, we then go to half a bar of C, and we're just going to go. So that's beat 3, 4 and. We're then going to go to another bar of 2, 4 and play the F chord, 1, 2 and. We're then going on to a C chord again. We're going to play 1.5 bars of this. And again, there is a variation you can do here. You can open up the D string. So just by taking your second finger off. And again, that will happen on the ands. So it'll be 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and. We then have half a bar of an F chord, so 3, 4, and. Then we're back onto the C, and we can put our variation in again. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. Now I'll point out here that on the first 3 verses, the C chord here is done for 1 bar before changing to an F chord. On the final 2 verses, verses 4 and 5, that bar goes on for another half bar. So you'd end up with this: 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and. There's actually another bar of 2, 4 that's snuck in there. Okay, we then change to an F chord. And we're going to do this for 2 whole bars. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. We then have a C chord. Okay, and we're going to play this for half a bar as you would expect. 1, 2, and. We then play beat 3 as a strum. We're then going to drop onto that Fmaj7. Just play that once before returning to the C chord, but only play the same 3 strings. So play the D, the G, and the B. So that bar will be. Okay, we then have another half a bar of the C chord, but this time we're going to play every half beat, so 1 and 2. We're then going to place our second finger now on the 2nd fret of the A string. We're going to play the A string, we're just going to allow it to catch the D string as well. We then go down to an A minor, play the same string, the A string, and again catch the D string, and then play down, down, and then you're going to go back onto the 2nd fret of the A string, again catching the D string. So that will be. Do that one more time, a bit more slowly. We're then going to play a C chord, and again this is a 2/4 bar, and we're going to play again on every half beat, so 1 and 2 and. We now go to a G chord for 1 bar. And notice we've returned there to our normal pattern, and then we're on to the A minor. We're going to do 2 bars of A minor, including the variation. Okay, so that gives you the full verse progression. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you through all of that slowly. Okay, so that gets you through the first 3 verses. Now when you get to the ending of verse 4, it changes ever so slightly. So after we've come off of this bit, we're going to do this bar of C, whereas before we did it for half a bar, or a bar of 2/4, this time we're going to do it for a full bar of 4/4, and just play strums every time. So I think that's how he's doing it. You could just play the other rhythm we've been using, the down, 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 down. But I'm fairly certain that he's playing it. He's playing on every half beat there. So it's 1 full bar of that before returning to what you'd expect, the G chord, and then the 2 bars of A minor. Okay, and then the final variation then is the end of the song, the end of verse 5, where coming in from exactly the same place again. Again, we do this C chord for a full bar. Then when we change the G, we're just going to do, okay, so that's 1, 2 and 3, 4. We let that last note ring over beat 4 there, and then we're going to return to the Asus2 chord. I'd recommend you put the whole thing on at this point, and we're going to play the opening bar again. Okay, so you do that pattern 3 times, and then you're going to play the full Asus2 chord with an upstroke to complete the song. Okay, thanks for watching everyone. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and found it useful. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.